Hey, it's Julian Gordon here, aka Mr. Rich and Righteous, aka Mr. Multifamily. And today I want to talk to you about the 7 things I learned from my 7-day social media fast. Last week, my friend Jake challenged me to fast from social media. I don't know why in particular he challenged me on social media, but I took it up and I accepted the challenge. Now, I fast regularly. I do a 24-hour fast from food once a week, but I never actually fasted from social media. And for the past 6 years, as people have come to know me as Mr. Multifamily for the work that I do in real estate, a lot of my identity was tied up in social media because that's how I was reaching people to share the knowledge and information that I had. And I didn't realize how much of my identity was actually tied up in social media. And I caught myself reaching for the Instagram icon, the YouTube icon, the TikTok icon, and the Facebook icon all throughout the week. And what's interesting for me is I feel shadow banned on social media in a way. My posts aren't getting as much reach as they used to get. And that is somewhat been affecting me because I really have all this great knowledge and wisdom that I want to share with the people about a variety of topics from multifamily real estate to manifestation. But my reach isn't getting out of there, and it's been frustrating me, and it's been cross-platform. And people say, Julian, you're not just being consistent enough, this and that. And I don't think that's what it is. But this was an actual relief to set aside social media and just put it away, Julian, rather than keep fighting against it. Just put it away and just see how that affects you in your life. Now, I fast often, like I said, and fasting is the ability to take any desire or detrimental pattern that may be getting control of you, like food, sex, cursing, social media, etc., and just put it in check for a period of time. It's a very healthy practice because we have to remind ourselves that the true divine order is spirit over mind and then body. So the spirit controls the mind and the mind controls the body, but oftentimes it ends up being backwards. We let our body, our desires, our lower nature, our base self actually control us and run our lives. And so I want to share with you the 7 things I learned from this 7-day social media fast in hopes that it inspires you to perhaps do a 7-day social media fast or to fast from something else. All right. So let's get into it. Number 1, fasting creates spiritual activity. Fasting creates spiritual activity. So fasting is a spiritual practice. We live in a world that says do, more, 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 more. But when you fast, you allow spirit to do the doing. You allow spirit to move and guide you towards a better alternative or just guide you within yourself instead of being so outward focused. This is why Jesus or Yahshua fasted for 40 days and 40 nights before beginning his ministry. It was a time to connect with God and to activate that spiritual activity. By abstaining from food, it reminded him of his true source, but not just his true source, our true source, which is the power of God. As Yeshua says, my food is to do the will of the one who sent me. Of myself, I can do nothing. The Father in me, he doeth the works. And this is what fasting, especially from food, can do for you. It reminds you of your true source of power. And I've noticed God move in the unseen realm more during this 7-day social media fast. And what do I mean by that? See, God is omnipresent. So God is always present. That's what omnipresence means. In God, we live, move, and have our being. So when we think God is not present in our lives, it's not because God is not present. It's because we are not present to God. We can't see God because we are letting the 5 senses drive us and control us and dictate our reality when there is a deeper reality that is within us that is more expansive than this outward reality, which is really just a mirror of our reality within. So when I fast, whether it's from food or social media, I feel more in tune with my 6th sense. When I'm fasting, I'm able to perceive things that my 5 senses normally don't notice. It's kind of like blind people, right? Oftentimes blind people are able to hear better than the average person. So their blindness, cutting off one of their senses, actually heightens their other senses. And that's what fasting does. You're cutting something off, a habit, something that's become an appendage for you. My phone became an appendage for me, and I literally was cutting it off, and then it allowed me to focus that energy elsewhere. So when fasting, my spiritual senses get heightened, and I see more spiritual activity, positive spiritual activity in my life. Now, the second thing fasting does immediately right out the gates, it creates awareness. Okay, when you fast, you immediately get to see how bound you were by the thing that you were fasting from. You got your little itches, you need your little hits, right? Of whatever it is, whether it's sugar, salt, food, social media, alcohol, whatever it is, you become aware like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize how much this thing had a hold on me. It's really eye-opening. I would reach for my phone or to try to hit a social media icon, and I would immediately have to close it. Like, what am I doing? I'm fasting from that, right? Because I would do it unconsciously, and I didn't even need it for any particular reason. Okay. So I do learn a lot of things from social media. So I don't perceive social media as negative. All social media is not bad, but when you want to stop something, you should be able to just stop something unless it has become an unhealthy, uncontrollable habit. And so this fast from social media was really powerful for me because I see my unconscious habits. My unconscious habits now become present. They rise to the surface, and now I can become conscious of them. And we'll get into what to do with that consciousness in just a second. The third thing fasting does is it creates silence. It creates silence. Scripture says, be still and know that I am God. Because I wasn't scrolling all the time, it helped me realize how much time I actually had and how much time I was wasting. That was the hard part, realizing how much time I was wasting on social media. And I know some of these phones track how much time you're using each app, and I encourage you to look at those statistics to see, wow, I say I don't have time to work out, or I don't have time to do this, or I don't have time to talk to my wife or be with my kids, but look how much time I spent on social media, right? So I noticed that my home was quieter and more peaceful, but more importantly, my inner temple, right? My mind was quieter because I wasn't engaged in all of this external activity of things that are happening in other people's lives that are none of my business, frankly, right? So, in fact, I got some major clarity this week as well on some big decisions that I have been wrestling with for a while. I think the silence that was created by this fast helped me get that clarity or helped me hear God. God is always trying to speak to us. God didn't stop speaking at the end of the Bible, right? Even between the Old Testament and New Testament, they call that 400 years of silence. God never stopped speaking. We just stopped listening. And so I was able to hear God in ways that I didn't hear God around these particular questions that I had before. The other thing that fasting does is it creates space. So yes, I said silence, but space is different. See, fasting isn't just about the elimination of something. It's also about what you replace that thing with, because now you have a vacuum and the universe abhors a vacuum. So now that I wasn't tapped into social media or my social media feed, I got a chance to feed myself and my soul in other ways. So I spent a lot of time actually reading the New Testament. I finished the book of Acts, Hebrews, and some other New Testament books, some of those shorter ones at the end. And now all I have left is Revelation. And that will complete another reading of the entire New Testament for me. And so instead of putting social media in front of my eyes, I actually went straight into spiritual text. And so I feel really, really good about that. And I got some divine downloads as I was reading those scriptures as well. The fifth thing fasting does is it creates hunger. Now, you're like, duh, Julian, if I'm fasting for food, I'm going to be hungry, right? Now, initially, you may hunger for the thing you're fasting from, right? But after you get over this hump, like there's this hump that happens in the midway of your fast. So if it's a 7-day fast, it's typically around the fourth day. Once you get over that hump, your hunger heightens, but it heightens not for that thing anymore. It heightens for something more meaningful, more helpful, and more healthy for you. So even if it's not food, fasting changes your taste buds or what you desire. And that's really what we need to change our lives. Our tastes and our desires have to change. And once our tastes and desires change, we start to go after different things and move differently. And so how much of our lives are driven by what we want and like, as opposed to what we need and what is best for us? I'm going to ask that again. How much of our lives is driven by what we want and like, as opposed to what we need and what is best for us? I feel like fasting helps me look at those two different things and actually start to go after what I need and what is best for me, as opposed to what I like and what I want. Right. So I hungered for spiritual food this week. I ended up talking more to my friends than I did observing their lives online. Yes, I talked on the phone to my friends more than just looking at their profiles online or the lives of other people who I don't really care about, right? I actually was on the phone with people more, and that led to some real meaningful conversations. And I think that space was created based on the fast. So the sixth thing that fasting does is it creates alignment. Fasting realigns you with your true source by putting the things you think you need aside. Sometimes we are so distracted by the very things we are fasting from. We start to categorize them as distractions as opposed to things that were just part of our lives. And once you categorize something as a distraction, you realize that it actually may be having more of a negative impact on your life than a positive impact on your life. For instance, we go to the refrigerator when we aren't even hungry, just out of boredom. Right? You just ate dinner and you in the refrigerator looking for a snack simply because you're bored. And I came to the awareness that some of life is actually boring. Like, we don't have to fill up this space all the time with something to do. Sometimes we can just sit, be still, be quiet, be grateful. We don't always have to do something, but I think we've been conditioned to be doers, doers, doers when we're actually human beings, right? I was going on social media in the past when I wasn't really looking for anything at all. Right? I was actually out of alignment instead of getting in alignment. It used to be the internet was just Google search bar and you had to be intentional and say, this is what I'm looking for. But now in this day and age where you're now being fed something, you have an Instagram feed or Facebook feed, it is feeding you based on your past behavior. So it thinks you want these things, but in reality, many of the things you don't want. This is why you're scrolling because none of this stuff is actually moving you. And so fasting creates alignment. Now, I said I was going to come back to this earlier. The other thing fasting does is it creates intention. Okay? Now that my fast has ended, part of me doesn't even want to re-engage with social media. But again, I don't think that social media is negative, just like I don't think money is bad. I don't think a knife is bad. How you use it determines whether it is good or bad. Right? So sometimes a short fast can actually lead to a permanent cutoff when you realize how much that thing had a hold on you and how much negative it brought into your life. But I'm not cutting social media out entirely. I am going to re-engage it in a new way. I'm going to establish a new relationship with it, right? I like social media more as a creator than a consumer. In fact, I'm using social media right now to get this message out to you. So I'm grateful for social media, and I want to have like a 70-30 split, with 70% being about creation and sharing and 30% being about consuming. Okay? So I just want to be more intentional with how I use social media and how I relate to it. Just like I'm more intentional about what I eat after I end a food fast, I want to do the same thing with social media. So these are the 7 things that I learned from my 7-day fast from social media. And I really enjoyed it. And I'm probably going to do it again. Maybe even once a month might be my rhythm, just to put that thing in check. Sometimes we have to take these things that we're doing habitually or unconsciously and just put them in check by fasting from them and realize that they have no power over us. So I hope that this inspires you. The internet will not miss you if you log off of social media for a week. I just put up a post saying I'm on a fast from social media. I'll see you in 7 days, and you might not see me in 7 days. You might see me in 14, but it's all good. Choose a fast, something to fast from for 7 days this week, and let me know how it goes in the comments. All right. I hope you're well. I wish you the best. Godspeed.